Hi, and welcome to the Open Mind Show. I just want to say one thing before we begin with our guest. Yes, I do have different hair, for those of you who have been watching for a long time, and it will probably stay this color for a while. My guest today is Justin Elledge, and he's quite an interesting person, medical intuitive, inventor, very knowledgeable about a wide range of topics, including health and nutrition and spirituality. So let's just find out what Justin has to say today. Hi, Justin.
Hey, Anita. It's great to be here, and
Nice
thank
to have you.
I think what I'd like to do is start to say that medical intuition, as much of any gift or ability, is something one has to hone. Now, my backstory is I hadn't planned to do this as a life vocation. However, I had 25 years of ill health, which led me to many alternative lifestyles and looking at different ways to deal with things and what would work in medicine and what would not work, what's considered alternative medicine. I've walked across hot coals, I've been to masters, I've been to alternative health clinics, I've been everywhere to find out what was my problem, or my health issue, or my disease. And after
You had something incurable, if I remember right.
Yes, yes. Well, yeah. In 1985, I went from weighing about 230 pounds. I looked like a linebacker. And then within 6 months, I dropped down to 160 pounds. Now, this being 1985, the first response was the medical community, the doctors I was working with, thought I had some form of AIDS.
Oh,
and
yeah.
so it was like a big thing on my map, and my family was feeling the same way, watching me waste away. Even though I was eating 3,000, 4,000 calories a day, that no matter what I did, I could just not maintain my weight. Well, interestingly enough, it all started with a root canal that I had in October of '85. And I called the dentist, and he said, oh, no possibility of any connection.
Of course they're going to say that.
I know. And so 18, 19, almost 20 years went on, and I would go to a doctor, a new MD, or a new clinician, chiropractic, alternative healthcare, acupuncturist, and I'd always say it always started with this, everything changed after I had this root canal. And then, so 20 years went by, and nobody could find the answer, and I had people said, oh, well, if I can't cure you, I won't charge you, and hundreds of thousands of dollars later, I happened to be up at the Cancer Control Society in Los Angeles one year, and there on the screen was a video about root canal dangers and what they cause. And I was reading the list of the things that would cause health challenges or health problems after having had a root canal and a toxic root canal. And
Let me ask you a question.
Sure.
That just popped something in my head.
Sure.
Do you think that was serendipitous that you saw that, or do you think there's some kind of intelligence at work that sort of guided you there?
Well, I would have to say that it was about a journey of spirit, because had I not gone through this process, I'm sure my ego would have much gotten in the way.
Yeah.
So I literally went back to basics, back to my core structure, and my body has been rebuilt so many times that I had not planned to attend the lecture. I just happened to walk into the room. I was waiting for a friend who invited me to the health lecture, and there was all these different events going on. So I just randomly sit down in the room and look up, and I'm watching this video, and I'm going, oh my God. And so that...
So some part of you, or
I was ready.
a part of the universe knew that this was where you needed to go and guided you there.
Indeed. And so to watch that and to realize the litany of the mantra, it all started with a root canal that came home, and I was in tears. I was literally in tears that all these years later, I finally knew that this is what I had to deal with. So over the next year, I thought, okay, started looking around, and I found one of the best oral surgeons here in Southern California, and they redid the tooth rather than remove the tooth, and that was a process. Oh my gosh. But within 3 or 4 days, my jaw started, I could feel my lower jaw again, and which I didn't know was not in pain, but it's like all of a sudden things started happening, and that was truly, in a sense, my resurrection. And that as my body and mind started coming back together, and I wasn't toxic, I wasn't poisoned every day. When someone has had a root canal, you are experiencing a small amount of botulism every day, 24 hours a day. And that botulism eats up your calories, so you need to maintain energy.
Well, is that true for every root canal? Because I've had them.
It's not true for every root canal, but my root canal, because of the circumstances, that it probably should have been treated longer, with a longer range of antibiotics.
Yeah.
And it was just like, it seemed like just a trivial thing to the doctor at the time. So rather than like 10 or 20 or 30 days of antibiotics, I was only given like a couple days. So it never really set. And the material they brought out, and without getting into the gory details, it was a 2-week process to redo the tooth. And once it was set and sealed, the materials they use now actually seal the root of the canal and the tooth so it bonds with the tooth. Before, they would simply put something in it like gutta percha, which had certain toxic materials in it which would prevent bacterial formation. However, the bacteria could get into the pores of the tooth, though microscopic, and they turn out the little botulism factory.
Well, bacteria are pretty microscopic.
They are. So coming around full circle, during this time, I'd done all kinds of strange and unusual, esoteric ways to find my own health and healing. I also at that time went through nursing school and thought, well, maybe there's something else here to look at. So finally, it was not till about 2004 that I finally had the tooth repaired. And then within a 6-month period, and I'm trying to remember before or after, but it was just within that 6-month window, that was May 2004, by April or Easter 2005 is when all of a sudden the door opened. And so my body was prepared, and then I was at a retreat, so this is about 6 months later, and it was up in the mountains. It was a retreat, and where I've been going for a couple of years just to get away, and a gentleman was laying on the floor in pain, and I put my hands on his chest just to get him to relax. Here come the goosebumps. And all of a sudden I saw this image of a broken rib in his chest. And I said, where exactly are you feeling the pain? And he says, oh, up here, because I thought it was up in his shoulder or his neck, because he'd been indicating some upper body pain. And I said, you, my friend, have a broken rib. And the room just went dead quiet. Because this guy had just been trying to adjust him like a chiropractor.
Ooh, ouch.
Yeah, yeah. So I said, you need to go get it wrapped. And he said, oh, I was afraid of that. And it's like, he was a big, husky, burly construction guy. And he didn't want anything to slow him down. I said, you have a broken rib. And it was just like, wow. But it was so clear because I could see the bones not meshed and broken and floating in his chest. And so out of that experience, a few weeks later, I was talking to a friend of mine about it. In fact, she was the same one that invited me to the event with that I saw about the root canal. And she said, well, why don't you view my health? And so I'm driving home, I've got my cell phone on, it's like, okay. And I start reading her body and all the different problems that she's having going through her life. And she was about 55 at that time. So I'm now sitting at the curb in front of my apartment, and I've gone through 12, 13 different systems. And I said, well, I think that's kind of everything. And it was just dead silence on the other end of the phone. And she said, that is amazing. You know things about me I've never told anybody. And at this point, I'm in tears. It's like, because I'm really doing this, and it was not just a fluke. And so she is an amazing body worker. She does this very usual process of where she'll work on one small area for hours rather than the whole body. And
Ouch.
she's had, well, that's exactly right. And her process will create an immune response so that the body will actually swell and send fluid into the particular muscles or fiber.
Isn't that the theory behind Rolfing also?
It is, but Rolfing is kind of a sledgehammer as compared to I don't want to say a scalpel, but it's much more specific. She'll work, like she might work an area that big rather than large muscle groups. So it's very similar, and that this process has actually helped people get back their neural function. Because one of the aspects is that if the neurons get the nutrition it needs and the muscles remember and they wake up because there's been certain fluids that have removed, that they can't fire. And they've actually had some opportunities to get people out of wheelchairs. So speaking with her at the time and what she experienced from this circumstance of this second sight, I would be at work, which my day job is in the world of design and engineering, so very right-brained and making things and measuring things. And I'd be covered in sawdust, and you know, I'd be covered in sawdust, and the next thing I get this phone call, and I'd go, okay, what's up, Nancy? And she said, well, can you tell me about this person on my table? Well, she's middle-aged, she's overweight, she has red hair, and she has this problem with her right knee, and she's, you know, needs to get some inserts and everything like that. And it's like, okay, hang up the phone and go back to work. And this went on for a few months. And so, and one day I get the phone call, and okay, blah, 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 and this is what's happening, this is what you need to address, and her adrenals are down, and, you know, her kidneys are this or that. Okay. And then I got another phone call about an hour later, and they were just like, that was amazing, and thank you so much. And the funny thing is she mailed me a check. And I had this check show up in the mail for a phone call that somebody called me, and it's just like, wow, that's different. And so it's like,
well, there might be something here.
there might be something here. And so it was, in a sense, reluctantly over a year that she would tell people and they would tell people and people would keep calling up, and I was just doing it. It was like the universe was preparing me to go forward with it. So having been through nursing school and worked, and I've been a nurse now like 17 years, but also with my background in engineering, has allowed me to see the body mechanics. So when I focus in to look at someone, it's like being a human MRI. So I don't see like energy fields. I'm seeing this organ in distress, and I'm seeing the thread between the psoriasis that's coming out of the person's skin going into the liver where the yeast problem is, and that's what's causing the surface blemish. One of the issues of recent that has been coming up in a lot of people, what can I suggest for one thing people can do tonight at home after watching this video, is go and get a water shower filter. Well, as we take showers and we're in the bathing and the water's coming out of the spigot, bless the municipalities, but they put chlorine in the water to kill bacteria.
Right.
Well, chlorine gas is highly toxic in concentrated forms, and so it's a matter of allowing the body to detox from that, and by putting a water filter on to the shower, you're no longer breathing the chlorine gas. Well, guess what? Your skin will then absorb the water.
Yeah, I've been thinking about getting those myself, actually. Just sort of toying around with it, because we have filtered water in the kitchen, and we use filtered water in the bathroom and the sinks, but the showers, no.
Well, what are the symptoms of chlorine water, chlorinated water? Dry skin,
Yeah.
dry hair, hair falling out, baldness. It goes on and on. There's a whole litany.
Uh-oh, Alan, you're in trouble. It's
So-
chlorine.
Well, with that is that it's affecting immune function as well as adrenal function as well as hormonal function, because as it's hot, the steam is coming off the shower, and we're breathing that. Now,
Yeah.
the health experts would say, well, there's not enough of it to affect us, but you do it every single day, and eventually everything adds up. It has
Yeah.
it has its limits, and nobody knows what that so-called safe level is.
Right.
So from my own experience, and that's what I'm speaking from, is by putting that shower filter on, now when I take a hot shower at night, it feels wet, and I feel clean, I don't feel all dry, and it's just a different feeling, it's a different vibration. And so that's what I find is that something people can do. Now, the adjunct to that is, it turns out there's one common nutrient that is missing in today's person's diet:
And that is?
iodine.
Oh yeah, we were talking about that earlier, iodine.
Iodine.
As you know, I haven't mentioned this much on camera, but someone very close to me has dementia, possibly Alzheimer's, and you mentioned that iodine might be something that could possibly be helpful.
Absolutely. Well, think about it this way. In Japan, where they have lower rates of cancer, very low rates of breast cancer, prostate cancer, and stomach cancer, it turns out the studies here say if you have low iodine levels, you will have a high rate of breast cancer, stomach cancer, and prostate cancer. And the best part about the iodine is it is a type of amine, like chlorine is an amine, or a halogen, and then you have bromine, chlorine, fluorine, or fluoride, and of course then the iodine. And iodine is the heaviest of the four. They used to put iodine in bread back in the 50s to help build us up, but they took it out and they put in something called bromine, which is chemically similar to iodine, but the body can't recognize.
Right.
And so
right.
it may affect, in fact, the thyroid, which affects weight gain
Well,
and hormones.
I make my own bread. We
Oh.
don't use commercial bread at all, but I use organic white spelt flour and whole grain kamut flour that I grind myself. But it doesn't have any additives in it. So would you suggest maybe kelp?
Kelp would
Kelp
probably be a good thing.
supplements?
One of the ones that's been looked at is dulse, Nova Scotia dulse. Not Gerson, but Hidden Valley, and I'm trying to think of the other, not Gerson, what was the other doctor's name? It's escaping me at the moment. But yes, I would have you consider adding a little bit of iodine to it versus getting tablets and crushing them. Or you could get a liquid iodine and then mix it in, because it does come in liquid or tablet forms. And everybody's different. I particularly like a tablet form of it, but the best part about the iodine is it pushes out all these toxins. It pushes out the fluorides, which is, if you cook in Teflon, has fluoride in it. And if you brush with your teeth with a fluoridated toothbrush,
No.
I'm not saying you, but if someone does, and by putting and getting rid of all these chemicals out of our body, all of a sudden our thyroid wakes up and our immune system kicks in, and all of a sudden it's helping to fight cancers and other issues that our body are attacked with every day.
And just to clarify, I mean, I'm sure you know this, but maybe our audience doesn't. The fluoride that's in water is not the same fluoride that is supposedly healthy for you. It's sodium fluoride, isn't it?
Yeah, sodium fluoride, which is produced chemically through the use of aluminum processing and fertilizer. Fluorine is the mineral we find out in nature. But again, because the water has been so fluoridated and the trickle-down effect, it's the combined issue. It's like a little bit of arsenic won't hurt you, but a lot of arsenic will kill you. And so as a society that we live in, we are surrounded by 20,000 chemicals on any day, and not all of them have been tested. So what, as a health advocate, as well as medical intuitive, that I can recommend is just help eliminate your system of some of the poisons that we're being affected by. Now, again, what that safe level is for every individual is different. But would I want to give a child some shot or vaccine or something that I consider might not have their best interest in mind? Probably not. As a nurse, I have given so many flu shots, I don't even want to think about it.
I've never had one.
And you're very lucky. I had one flu shot in my life. It made me sicker than a dog. And so I will never get one or advocate anyone getting one again. Of one nutrient that I can recommend to people that will help turn their system around, and I'm not recommending people run out and drink gallons of it or take hundreds of tablets, but one nutrient that's missing in our diet today is iodine.
Yeah.
And because of that...
It's still in the salt, right?
Well, it's funny you should mention like the iodized salt. Well, again, it's one salt and one iodine.
Yeah.
But the amount of iodine you'd have to get in that salt, you'd have to use like 3 or 4 tablespoons. And the only way to get the iodine off the salt and into your system is you have to put it in water and boil it to release the iodine from the salt. So
well, we don't use iodized salt. We use kosher salt.
Well, there you go. Well, again, the kosher salts or sea salts have all the minerals in them. And again, by warming them up or getting them to a liquid state and then mixing them with the foods, you get a better transport of them. Because if you don't have the salts, you don't have the digestion, you don't have the proper digestion, then it causes all these tertiary issues, so you're not getting the nutrients, your immune system is overwhelmed, and you're back to ill health.
Yeah. And we also drink raw milk. We have it delivered.
Oh, great, great.
From Northern California. But we don't do the raw butter, mainly because it's like $15 a pound. You know?
Well, with that, there are butters. I'm going to shift gears a little bit, but getting back to issues of like Alzheimer's or other brain functions that we're all trying to maintain as we grow older, one of the issues that's being looked at is the omega-3 fatty acid ratio to omega-3 to omega-6s. In corn-fed beef, the milk product or the dairy or the butter is coming off at about 20 to 1. So when we ingest those fats, they're way out of balance.
Right.
Well, the brain cells in our head are actually mostly fat. So to get those...
The fat head.
Fat head, yeah. So to get the fat ratios back down to where they belong, we need to get the ratios as nature intended, which is about 2 to 1, and that's grass-fed beef. When they call it Angus beef in the ads, but it's the grass-fed beef that is helping to rebalance that. So if you had grass-fed butter or pasture-fed cows, you're getting happy cows, because that's really what they're intended. By the way, secret of a certain ice cream company with 2 guys in Vermont, their secret was that they use grass-fed cows to give them the milk.
Talking about Ben & Jerry's?
Ben & Jerry's, yes.
Oh, yeah.
So they're a big secret that they probably
Which they now sold to General Foods or
General
something.
Foods, yes.
Or somewhere, I'm not sure where.
So, but the grass-fed cows that they used gave the best milk, which then gave the best ice cream.
And you know that is so true, because when I was in England, I was astounded at the cream and the ice cream, and oh my God, and the butter, it was unbelievably good. And in England, all the dairy farms are small herds, and they're grass-fed.
Exactly, exactly. Well, you experienced exactly what my wife is from Ireland. We went to Ireland, and I'm eating the cottage cheese and the milk, and it's like, where did you guys get this stuff? It's amazing.
It's amazing.
And our body says this is what we're looking for.
Yeah.
And why do we have such obesity in this country? Boy, look at the goosebumps just taking off here. Is that the obesity comes from our desire to eat the foods that will make us healthy. But we will continue to eat raw calories thinking we will eventually fill up the need that our body requires in the proper balances of fats and minerals and proteins. And so as you've experienced, or anyone that's gone to Europe, we've had these same conversations. The
Unbelievable.
food here, most of the cows and the pork and the chickens are all fed corn because
Yeah.
it's easy to produce and it's high calorie, but it's not necessarily high nutrition.
Well, I'm going to give a plug to a certain company. It's Henry's Foods. They say, now I haven't put this to the test, they say that all of their meats are grass-fed, except I don't know about the pigs, but their beef is grass-fed organic.
Very good.
So that's one place to get it.
Sure.
If Henry's is a big chain, I don't know where it is in the rest of the country, but in California, it's pretty prevalent.
Yeah, there is another chain out here in Southern California called Mother's Market and Kitchen.
Mother's Market and Kitchen.
Which is like my home away from home.
I love that place.
And so that's the thing for people to look at, is that when you read the label, you want to look for grass-fed.
Yeah.
And that is, it may be a little bit more expensive, but in the long term, you get more calories your body can use more effectively. So you don't have to eat as much, and you're getting as much or better nutrition that you would if you ate huge amounts of empty calories. And,
Yeah.
and it's just so simple. It's like...
That's the basis of a weight control program I put out there.
Exactly.
Eat real food.
Eat real food. Like, again, if you're going to eat dairy, eat real dairy.
Yeah.
And, you know, when I put a fork into the cottage cheese in Ireland, and it stood up, and it was like, wow, that's different. It wasn't like gruel.
Right.
And it's just like,
You know what really surprised me recently?
What's that?
I found out, I bought this wonderful book called Milk. It's all about the history of milk and so forth. I found out that you really have to read the label on half and half and cream because most of it is skim milk and carrageenan and texturizers and so forth. So I found a few places that list the ingredients of just cream and milk or just cream, but it's harder to find.
oh my gosh, wow, I can only imagine. Now, something to consider is that, like with sodas, I deal with a lot of college students, and so it's always about getting something quick and simple. The Red Bull, and you have the other power drinks and Powerade. So what I recommend for them as a way to save money is to make their own basically Pedialyte, which is what they feed to infants to keep them hydrated. And that's a basic on the Master Cleanser, a little bit of raw maple syrup, organic, dash of lemon, dash of sea salt, and maybe a little cayenne or not.
Yeah, I've had that actually.
Yeah, and you can live on this for a few days to help clean out your system, or you can make it for 25 cents a day, and it will help energize the body and help feed it the electrolytes that are missing.
We're almost out of time, but I don't want to leave
sure.
before we talk about your wonderful invention here.
Well, thank you so much. Well, this is the Wonderweight, and the Wonderweight works by rotary motion. Let me get it spinning there. So what this is doing now, it's firing up every muscle in my shoulder, all 8 of them. And so by doing this, I'm engaging the entire muscle girdle. So men and women, whether they be professional bodybuilders, just give it a snap in like, there you go, there you go. So whether they be a professional bodybuilder or they've had a problem with breast cancer, any one of a dozen applications. I've had women that have had frozen shoulder that within like 5 or 6 weeks have full range of motion. It's been used for stroke patients because they can get one hand going and keep the other one spinning. I've sent one to NASA for review. It's being used by different people, moms. I have an elementary school up in Sunland that the kids are fighting over it because they all want to break the record. So my plan is to take out a news crew out there, and we're going to have like a Guinness Day and see who can go the longest, as well as involve the parents and the school, and they seem to be having fun. What I really enjoy about it is the fact is it prevents carpal tunnel. I notice when I do it, my hands are free because I do a lot of computer work, and that what's the miracle of this is that it tends to undo the damage of modern living. So, I mean, it's also that engaging more muscles. I've had people use it for fibromyalgia. I've had one gal that did, she was on disability for tendinitis, and she was a massage therapist. She had to be able to work on people. She used the Wonderweight for 6 weeks, and she got rid of her tendinitis, and it's been gone now 2 years.
That's amazing.
Another woman down in San Diego, a minister, had breast cancer, and so she used it to free up her shoulder from the adhesions, that kind of thing. So it's a very gentle motion. It's much more like Tai Chi. And,
which I do.
well, there you go. And so people have these amazing responses to it. In fact, one guy just broke a world record of 1,200 pounds of bench pressing. And he used a very simple, this is the medium weight or the 3-pound, and then I have a little bit heavier one, about a 4-pound. So they come in different weights. And if anyone wants to see them, they're at wonderweight.com.
That's what I was going to ask you. How could they find out more about them?
They're on wonderweight.com, and there you can read it.
Is that how they would get in touch with you also? Through where? Wonderweight.com?
There's an 800 number on there, And anybody who wants to contact me directly by email, it's wonderweight@gmail.com,
Okay.
which is a different hat that I wear versus the medical intuition work, which is viewmyhealth.com.
Viewmyhealth.com.
Viewmyhealth.
All right. Well, thank you, Justin. This has been just fascinating. And I'd like to have you back again sometime to maybe talk about more things even. We could have done 2 hours here just on all the things that you know.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. And thank you for watching. Please check out all our other shows too. We have a wonderful array of fascinating topics and guests, and we'll see you next time. Bye now.